part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
This episode of Cavs on the Break NBA Podcast is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Newark AutoBody. With winter weather and slick road conditions comes black ice and accidents. And if you've been in an accident and your car needs a little TLC, look no further than Newark AutoBody in Zanesville AutoBody. Safe, reliable collision repairs is their business. Newark AutoBody in Zanesville AutoBody is a local family-run and veteran-owned business serving Newark, Zanesville, and surrounding areas. And guess what? They work with all insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free. And if you are a U.S. military veteran, even better. Ask about their special discounts for vets at the shop, and they'll be happy to help. Look, it can be hard finding a trustworthy car mechanic, but people over at Newark AutoBody and Zanesville AutoBody have you covered. They care for you first and make sure they keep you safe and back on the road. Visit them at autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com to get your repair started. Our iCar Gold Class team of skilled collision repair technicians will make your vehicle like new again. Head on over to our show notes for links and tell them Press Play sent you.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Hey, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to Cavs on the Break NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm John Sabol, along with Hoops Writers' very own Sam Amico, longtime NBA writer, Cavs writer. You know him, you love him, we love him. Sam, how are you doing tonight?
John, I'm doing just swell. It's good to be able to record another podcast and talk to you and talk about the Cavs because Donovan Mitchell's back and things are looking up.
Things are looking up. We're recording this here on the evening of March 13th. We're late here, so it's March 14th, the Thursday morning. The Cavs coming off a win in New Orleans, starting off this little 3-game road trip off on the right note. Sam, real quick, before we get into the game and everything else, let's just get everything out here. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. I'm assuming you all have. If you're listening, you're getting that new notification to your phone when we drop new episodes. Like it. And also follow us on Twitter. You can follow the pod at Cavs on the Break. Follow yours truly at John_Sabol. And you can follow Sam at Amico Hoops on Twitter. Okay, that's all out of the way. Cavs win 116-95 in a game where, Sam, you said Donovan Mitchell returned.
Yeah, and I think, just his mere presence out there really helped them in the sense that anytime you have a guy like Donovan Mitchell, it's going to give you a boost, right? Just at least kind of emotionally. And, he's another threat. He's the biggest threat. He didn't have a great game, 5 of 16, 5-16 shooting, 14 points. Looked a little rusty, understandably so, after missing the last 7 games. But just having him out there, obviously, I would say the ball's moved in this particular game against the Pelicans better than it has really at any time in February. And you're going back to that 17 of 18 in January to see the ball move like this. I watched the game, actually, John, at home, and I watched it on the Pelicans broadcast. Just ended up that way. Mm-hmm. And the Pelicans announcers afterwards were like, yeah, this team is legit when they're healthy and they're clicking. This team's, they were praising the Cavs. The Pelicans announcer spent usually you talk about your own home team, but the Pelicans announcers were praising the Cavs and saying this team really has a lot of potential in the East, and offering praise right after the game. So I thought that was kind of cool. And if the Cavs play like they did against the Pelicans the majority of the time, yeah, they have a shot to go places.
Yeah, you don't hear that very often. Usually when you're a losing team, you're going on what went wrong, what to improve on. The fact that a visiting team, or I should say the home broadcast of this team, the Pelicans, spend a lot of brunt of their time talking and praising about the Cavs is cool to see, but also just kind of puts us, we get so wrapped up into it where we see them all the time, so we can dissect it a little bit. But to get a national perspective from a team that you only see twice a year, Pelicans out of the West, is kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that because, lately, until Mitchell came back, obviously, or even with Mitchell since the All-Star break, the Cavs have been kind of struggling. They beat the Celtics, they beat the Timberwolves, the two leading teams in the West, and then
Mavericks.
or the East and West, and beyond that, they didn't do a whole lot. But then you go into New Orleans, who's having a pretty good year. I think they entered the night sixth in the Western Conference, so on their own floor. And guess what? Cavs didn't have Mobley or Strus or Dean Wade. Pelicans were at full strength, right? For the most part. I mean, was Valanciunas out? But I may have.
No, he played 15 minutes tonight. He had 5 points.
I missed the beginning of the game and did not see him in there much. So, they were at full strength. C.J. McCollum played. He had 8 points, and Zion Williamson was fantastic. But I think beyond this game, it gives you a sense that, the Cavs maybe things have been a little rocky lately because of the injuries and kind of that All-Star break, I don't know, malaise after the break. The Cavs have shown that, we're capable of pulling this together. And we heard it and saw it, the ball movement. It's all predicated on whether or not the ball movement is good. And I mean, you look at tonight, Darius Garland on top of 27 points, 11 assists. Sam Merrill finally found his shooting stroke again, which is so key for them. 5 of 10, all 3-pointers, 15 points, 9 assists. Karis LeVert, only 2 points, but 9 assists. And I would say Karis LeVert has always been a willing facilitator. He's never been as good at it as he is this season. You're talking about last game, 11 assists. This one, 9 from Karis LeVert. So, I mean, just the fact that the ball was moving the way it was, that was really what the players and JB Bickerstaff talked about after the game, how important that is for this team.
I'm not a big plus-minus guy. I think it's a kind of a flawed stat.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to glance at it and look at other things. But Karis LeVert was a plus 27. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but it's a pretty impressive number considering how LeVert has been playing. And he's been a frustrating player, I think, for some Cavs fans since, hard to kind of really, you see him play and you see some of the things that he does, and you see that there is some like inconsistencies and frustrations, maybe like when he has the ball, dribbles too much. I think what doesn't get talked about enough is defense, which JB loves, which is one of the big reasons why they like him to be back. He's an asset off the bench. He can score, very streaky, but to see him do other things when the shot's not falling, I mean, he was 1 for 6 tonight, is encouraging. You bring up Darius Garland, Sam, and I can't help but think one of our big topics the last time we recorded, 5 or 6 days ago, was about Darius and about the struggles. And he struggled the night of the Suns game, a game you and I were both at. And what's going to happen when Donovan gets back, when he's not on a minute restriction, when he's healthy? What's going to happen? Is Darius still going to be the 1? Is Mitchell going to be the 2? We talked about a future Garland demotion. You need to see Darius playing with more confidence. And you're seeing that. And there's a lot of other factors going here that I guess we haven't been fair enough to talk about. And that's the fact that ever since his jaw injury, he's trying to put weight back on. He's trying to get into rhythm. I mean, he just hasn't been there. That's all fair, but still, the Cavs offense, I think, still runs better when Donovan has the ball. But when you have an off night like Donovan did offensively, you need a guy like Darius to come up to be that second scorer. That was great to see against Pelicans. We just need to see that more consistently.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Darius's 5 games coming into the Pelicans game. He had a couple of 30 points in there. Mitchell missed obviously last 7, so this is all Darius trying to run team and lead it to wins as the number one, as really kind of the sole guard out there, the sole starting guard out there, because Max Strus has been out too. So, look at Darius's 5 games leading in the Pelicans. I don't have this in front of me, but pretty sure it was 14, and this isn't in order. but he's had 14 games of 14, 15, 16, 30, and 34 heading into the Pelicans game. So you look at his scoring, it's kind of been all over the place. But one of the games where I think it was 34, maybe one of the games, it was against the Celtics. He had 16 points and 11 assists. Okay. So they beat Boston. When his assist numbers are high, they usually win.
Yes.
And,
good point. Very good point.
That's what happened against the Pelicans. 27 points, 11 assists again. And when his turnovers are low. Against the Pelicans, I think he had 11 assists, 1 turnover, 27 points, 10 of 16 from the field. Was just really played such a complete game. And when Garland, look, not everybody, you don't expect him to get 11 assists and only 1 turnover every night. But if you can come closer to those type of numbers where you're getting 8 assists and maybe 2 turnovers or 9 assists and 3 turnovers, those games when he's distributing the ball and keeping the offense moving, he was a huge reason that the ball was really moving against the Pelicans. And he's done a better job of that, as you said, John, almost as he gets his strength back. When he gets his strength back and has gotten more into rhythm, because he lost 8 pounds, with his jaw wired shut, lost 8 pounds. You lose a lot of strength like that, especially when you're talking about 2 pounds. You're losing 2 pounds a week. That's a lot of weight. So for a guy who didn't really have any weight to lose. So, you talk about that, getting his strength back. Then all of a sudden, Donovan Mitchell goes down during this process of after the All-Star break. There's just a lot been on Darius's shoulders. And I think that he's done an admirable job, even though, as you and I have talked about before, he's probably not having his best. He's definitely not having his best overall season. It's probably, other than his rookie year, injuries have a lot to do with that. But all that matters is that you play well now, that you play well from here to, the playoffs whenever those end. And I think that he's definitely moving in the right direction over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Sam, I just did a quick look at Darius's game splits, and I just did it quickly, so I may be off by 1 or 2. But the point is valid, excuse me, to what you're saying. When Darius has 7 or more assists a game this season, now he's only had double digits 3 times this season. But when he's gone over 7 or more assists a game, the Cavs are 14-6.
Yeah, they tend to play better. And you know what, John? You just said he's had double-digit assists 3 times this season?
3 times. Tonight against the Pelicans, the Celtics game where they won, and the Orlando loss in February. So when he's gone 10 or more assists, they're 2-1.
And then you talk about, did you say the Orlando game right after the All-Star break? You're talking about he's had all 3 of those games since the All-Star break. So he's and 2 of them in a little more than a week. So it's obviously been somewhere where he's kind of obviously a point of emphasis for him is to continue to distribute the ball. And assist numbers can be a little bit tricky because sometimes you have nobody to rely on but your teammates. They got to make the shots, but assists really speak to your ability to set up your teammates, get them the ball where they like it, get them while they're either in a groove or get it to them in their spot, or more than likely throw a good pass that leads to a basket instead of trying to force something. And, as Garland had a reputation for doing at one point, trying to force something and make the highlight worthy, play every time. I think he's calmed down on that. And he knows that he commits too many turnovers, and I think he's trying to do something about it.
And we've talked about that in the last podcast about his turnover issues, how it's struggled in his rookie and sophomore year to then really improving in it last year. And then this year it's back up. So it's been kind of a roller coaster ride. Hey, one other player I wanted to talk about to the Pelicans game, and I don't want to talk too much about this game just because it's a random game on a random Wednesday night, and Cavs are going to be off here for a few days. And then they go to Houston for the road trip, and then to Indiana on Monday. 2 really tough places to play. Cavs never typically play well in Houston. I know the Rockets this year aren't very good, but the Pacers game is something to keep your eye on Monday, March 18th, because I think that could be a potential playoff preview. And when we can talk about that on eventual podcast as well. but I don't think the Cavs match up really well with them, with the Pacers, if they don't have Mobley, which I don't think they'll have him. But about tonight's game, one other player that stood out, where the heck did Damian Jones come from with 21 minutes off the bench with 14 points? My goodness, he was feeling it. 7 of 8 from the field. Career game for him.
Yeah, and it was huge. I think the more he's gotten more of an opportunity with these injuries, and even when he's not putting up big numbers, I've always liked his energy. He's very energetic. He's very athletic. I don't know that he's what they would call raw basketball skills wise, but he brings what he brings, and I think that he's probably having a better year this year than he's ever had in his career when he gets the opportunity. I think he's just in the right kind of culture for him, which is he's a great guy, great dude. And I think that, he's going to be built up by his teammates in this situation because his teammates are everything I can tell by being in the locker room are a bunch of great guys too. So I think that helps. The Cavs have guys that have gotten over themselves. So when you're in that situation as a player like Damian Jones, who's never going to start, he's not going to be a starter anytime. He may not even be the first backup, but you're just ready. Guys like Sam Merrill and Damian Jones and Craig Porter Jr., those guys have all delivered when they've gotten their opportunity. And I think that's a credit to their teammates, the coaching staff, the culture. And, here is Damian Jones having one of those kind of Sam Merrill-like breakout games for him, where it's like, hey, you know what? Sam Merrill had it earlier this season, and Damian Jones had it tonight, which is, you know what? Things could be worse if you have to play me. Because I can make my contributions. And guess what? They really needed him tonight. I mean, the Pelicans were a big team with Zion and Valanciunas and some of those other guys, Larry Nance Jr. They're a big physical team.
Yeah, 6'10" kid. I say kid, but he's 28. I mean, the guy's been in the league now since 2016, 17. And I take that back. I kind of shot from the hip there. I thought it was kind of a career night, not in so much of the points, but his field goal percentage. I went back, just as you're talking, Sam, you go back to 21-22 when he was with the Kings. There's a stretch there, a stretch of about 9 or 10 games, consistently 10 straight games of double figures in points. And this isn't just like this is in March and April, end of the year against big teams. And there are nights where he went from the field 8 of 9, 8 of 10, 7 of 9, 6 of 8. 9 of 13.
What year was this?
This was 21-22, and he was a member of the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
And that year he averaged 6 and almost 7 points a game, and which is crazy to think about, by the way. I say he's a kid. He's 28 years old. He was on the Warriors roster in 2017 and 18 when the Cavs played him in the finals.
I remember him being around. Did he play for the Lakers too, maybe?
Yeah, 22, 23 he did.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, he's been around. He's and I think that's what helps him. And it's more than just this Pelicans game. I think while he's been playing, while Mobley's been out and Jones has been in there, in the limited minutes he's gotten, he's done some good things. He protects the basket pretty well. And he doesn't force anything on offense. He's smart enough not to force anything on offense when he's surrounded by these other weapons. But no, I've liked the guy from day one, what the effort that he brings, and he's long and athletic.
All right. Well, coming up after the break, Sam and I are going to go on a few little topics here. We're going to get an injury update on Mobley and Max Strus from Sam. We're going to talk about a piece of NBA history that happened in this Pelicans game. And then another piece of Cavs history. If you listen to this pod consistently, I like to do like a This Day in Cavs history type of thing every once in a while. This one isn't a This Day in Cavs history, but it is a date in March 10th. That was just as we record this here on the night of the 13th in the early morning hours of the 14th. Was just 4 or 5 days ago. Why is March 10th important in Cavaliers history? I asked Sam this question before we hit record. He had no idea. I didn't tell him. And you're going to listen to his live reaction. That and much more on Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Cavs on the Break listeners, we have teamed up with Columbus-based company Homage. You may know them. We've been talking about them on the podcast for a few months. And boy, did they produce some great merch for you when it comes to upgrading your swag game in your closet. They are Columbus and Cleveland and Cincinnati and all of the surrounding markets home for your professional sports teams. In Cleveland, you got the Cavs, the Guardians, the Browns, college, Ohio State, MAC, NHL, pop culture, you name it. Sam, they have some really cool clothes when it comes to T-shirts and hoodies and shorts, and it's high quality as well.
And they have Austin Carr, which I have. The Austin Carr as a player T-shirt. That is just amazing. I even told AC that I had it, and we talked a little bit about it. We talked about Homage and all the kind of gear that I've gotten over the years from them. Usually, obviously the T-shirts have been just my favorite thing. And there's just so many of them. Obviously, as being an NBA guy and a guy who loves classic NBA stuff, I just love their spin on everything when it comes to how they design retro T-shirts. Frankly, that's been, I think I probably have like close to a dozen of them over the years. I've gotten them just because I love the designs.
The retro stuff and the NBA Jam stuff's awesome. They do NFL Jam, MLB Jam now. I've got an old school one with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty on it. That was one of my favorite ones. They sent me a cool Cavs one recently with the old gold script from the 70s. These guys over there keep knocking it out, Sam, with all those new designs and those retro designs and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I have an NBA Jam with Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, I believe. So they offered me, a chance to pick my own NBA Jam T-shirt, and one of the ones I believe was Price and Daugherty, and I took Bird and McHale instead.
Oh no, I'm telling Mark on you.
yeah, I don't know. He may know that story, but yeah, I love it, and just because I have so much Cavs stuff, and it's kind of funny that I went with Austin Carr but not Mark Price, but I loved it. I was excited as, when you used to get stuff in the mail as a kid, you'd be real excited. That's how I felt when I got the Austin Carr T-shirt finally showed up. So, yeah, and some of their old school stuff that I have, like Tampa Bay Buccaneers old school logo,
Bucko Bruce.
T-shirt. Yeah. So there's just a lot of stuff like that obviously modern fans of modern teams and their logos and stuff can go to shop, but I stick to the retro stuff, and I just love it because to me it's the best retro stuff out there.
No doubt, for sure. And they also have pop culture stuff, WWE, you name it, college. Head on over to our show notes. We have a link for you to browse and upgrade your closet with whatever you need. Big thanks to Homage. Check them out.
Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary, and we love ball cards.
And if you love ball cards too, good news. You just found your new favorite podcast. From breaks to grading.
And from collecting to flipping, join us on the Ball Card Show.
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
Welcome back to Cavs on the Break, NBA podcast right here on the Plus Play Podcast Network. John Sabol here alongside Sam Amico. Follow us on Twitter again, at Amico Hoops, at John_Sabol, at Cavs on the Break. Sam, we touched on three topics, teased three things before the commercial break. My March 10th importance, the NBA history that happened tonight in the Pelicans game, and health. So we're going to go with the health first. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's back on a slight minute restriction. He'll be okay, seems like, hopefully with that knee. Don't be surprised if he probably gets a couple off days here and there now that he's, as you've written on Hoops Wire and had alluded to this weeks ago, he is now ineligible to be a candidate to be named All-NBA because of the new rules trying to kill the load management, which unfortunate. If you have a legit injury like he did, he can't get it, but I don't know how else you're going to enforce it, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think that the players agreed to this. So
yeah, health to Evan Mobley, sprained his ankle early last week, and it could be out probably another week or two, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's my guess. I think they said at the time they were going to reevaluate him in a week.
Yeah,
here we are. I think it's like a week later. So. That doesn't mean he's going to play. It just means they're going to check it out. And it just depends on the severity of the sprain. Could be another week, could be 2 more weeks. They didn't make it sound like it was something that was, a severe sprain. Otherwise you would be waiting to reevaluate him. So the fact that they're reevaluating him after a week and we're at that week mark, I think is promising for his potential return. Max Strus, I have no idea what's going on.
That was the Boston game that Mobley sprained, right?
I can't remember, but I think it was after that, wasn't it? When the game after that, what did he have?
He played 23 minutes that game and 4 points.
Boston.
Yeah, so that would have been it.
Did he play the next game?
The next game would have been the Hawks game in Atlanta, and he did not.
Okay, so it would have been the Boston game, which was when?
Boston game was Tuesday, March 5th. So we're looking at now 9 days.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean we're to the point where you would think that he'd either be back or somebody needs to ask why he's not back yet, or what's the diagnosis after the 1 week reevaluation would be the question to ask. Unfortunately, I can't ask it because they're out of town and I am not. As far as Strus, that's starting to get into mystery area for me. I'm like, why are we not hearing more about this? Why is it just kind of showing up on the injury report and we're not really getting updates? So
no, we're not.
No, I think part of that is because Mitchell was out and everybody's focus was on Mitchell. But now to me, it's like, okay, where's Strus? This is a guy who's kind of been an Iron Man, and he plays through a lot of pain. So what's going on here with him? I also think the Cavs, I don't know about other teams, so I'm not comparing them to other teams. I think the Cavs medical staff is a little too over-the-top cautious. I just do. Because they make the decisions on this, they make the calls on this, and I think that the Steve Spiro and those guys are too over the top. I just do. There's too many missed games since that guy's been their medical staff guy, and I just think that there's too many missed games.
It's funny. I covered the NHL down in Tampa when I worked down there. I covered the Tampa Bay Lightning when I lived in Florida, 9 years. And the one thing that really irritated me at the NHL is when someone would get hurt, teams would just label it as a upper body injury or a lower body injury. And it's because, hockey's a professional sport. And so if you've got a shoulder injury, you don't want to put it on an injury report because then with all the, checking, you're going to target that. Yeah. So I get it. But then like at the day after a team gets eliminated, then they tell you everything. Oh, this guy played with a fractured wrist. Hockey players are the toughest dudes on this planet. You know what I mean? Along with rugby and whatever. They are tougher than any NBA player ever. I'm sorry, they are tougher than most baseball players and football players. They're just different dudes, and they're also great guys too. But it's still as media, we're just annoyed. It's like, well, when did that get hurt? That practice? Oh, lower body. Is it his ankle? Is it his groin? Is it his knee? Whatever. We know Strus has a knee injury. He hasn't played, Sam, since the Knicks game on March 3rd. And I mean, he's missed now, 6 games tonight? The Pelican game was 6.
Yeah.
So, you say he's the Iron Man. You're right. And he also hates getting hurt. He wants to be out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to wonder what this is going to be. Cavs aren't going to get much.
Yeah. There are times where players will tell the medical staff, I don't care what you say, I'm playing.
Mhm.
And if Strus could be that guy. Now, who knows? I don't know I think it's fair to question, the Cavs can't get mad. Sometimes they'll get mad, like, why are you questioning injuries? It's like, because you never tell us anything. If we were to know, then we wouldn't question it.
Well,
but with Mitchell, they were very open and, very open with Mitchell. I still don't know what's going on with Ty Jerome. I mean, I know, didn't he have surgery now?
Ankle surgery. Yeah, that was back in November?
No, I think the surgery was I think what happened with Ty Jerome, and again, this is thinking because nobody talks to us about it. But in November, I think he did sprain it. Then he tried to come back, and then something else happened, and then maybe he had surgery. I don't know. I don't remember. But I mean, the guy's played 1 game, officially 2, but 1 game with the Cavs, and I just don't know. I mean, I suspect it's pretty serious. I'm not downplaying Ty Jerome's injury, but it's just, to me, it's just such a mystery. And you said the media, it's annoying. I'll say this, John. The only reason I get annoyed is because the fans are asking me as if I'm going to have some information, but it's just not available. And I love the Cavs as far as working with them, their public relations staff. I absolutely love them. They're great.
They are. Yes.
This isn't a criticism of them, but there's only so much information that they can give us that they don't, you don't want to tick off your employers or the players, or I don't think you'd tick off the players at all, but the medical staff, it's the coaching staff. This is all a big secret. They're not trying to keep it a secret from the media or the fans. They're trying to keep it a secret from the other teams.
It's that hockey thing I was telling you about.
Right. They want to keep them guessing.
Yeah.
But as far as the fans and the media, yes, we get very annoyed because, one, fans play fantasy basketball. They're trying to figure it out. They care about the team. They care about the Cavs. And they're curious. When is Max Strus coming back? What's wrong with him? And we're asking questions that the fans are asking us. So I've already gone on too long about this subject.
That's all good.
But I would say, it's hard to get an answer. And it's not just the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's every professional sports team in every sport anywhere. And now it's seeping down into the colleges. So
it's look at Ohio State, how they handle a lot of their stuff too.
Right. Keep everything a big secret.
I say this to
I don't get.
You and I have had this conversation before. I've had other fellow colleagues, guys I work with at Fox 8 too. It blows my mind. These professional sports teams in all these leagues act like they're Fort Knox, and they can't tell you a little thing about an injury, or it's just like, guys, we're not guarding the nuclear warheads. Just give us a little something here about this. It's like, when did we become so damn secretive about things? It's just aggravating. And it's little things,
Very, very little things. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this though, to your point, Cavs have been really cool about things. They're not really necessarily, when it comes to injuries like this, you got to do, but the Ty Jerome one's very interesting, and the Max Strus one as well. For the most part, Cavs have been great. Other teams,
it's a lot worse elsewhere. The Cavs, at least I will say this, as a guy who's covered the Cavs a long time, over the last year or two, I've never been so felt been made to feel so welcome, and so the coverage is so appreciated and all that. So I've really enjoyed. I always enjoy my job, love my job, but they've made it that much more enjoyable. Their public relations staff and just dealing with the people there. Everybody's been fantastic. So that's not really the issue. As far as answering the Cavs or the fans' questions on when those guys are going to be back, I'm not sure. I don't have an answer on Mobley or Strus and Dean Wade. Personal reasons are always that is indeed a personal matter. But I suspect Dean Wade will be back on this trip. If not for Houston, then Indiana. And again, that's a guess, but I think that he's getting ready to come back. And then certainly they'll need him next week because they play Miami at home, and then they go back on the road and face the Timberwolves again. So this is a tough, 4 games coming up. They had tough 5 games. It's nice that they got the nice win against New Orleans.
Yeah, which makes this Houston game and Indiana game on the road even more important because, like you say, that road trip, the schedule doesn't lighten up for them. It doesn't really lighten up at all. Besides the Hornets, they play the Hornets 3 times. The next month and a half, the next month, I should say.
The only team in this season who've gotten swept by the Detroit Pistons in the season series.
Wow, no kidding. Look at that little nugget.
All 3 games.
Speaking of nuggets, not the Denver Nuggets, but we got 2 nuggets for our listeners here, Sam. Let's first start with what happened in this Cavs Pelicans game that is only happened now. Cavs, the 8th team ever to do this. Rarely happens. So tell us what exactly happened.
Shot 3 free throws against the Pelicans. And I wrote this in my dribbles, my late night dribbles after the game. If you're JB Bickerstaff, you'd have a great reason to complain about that. The free throw discrepancy was just atrocious. And the Cavs didn't take their first free throw until there were like 9 minutes left in the game. Darius Garland went to the line with like 9 minutes left in the game after he drove for an and one. And then they shot 3 for the game. They made 2 out of 3. They have not shot that few free throws since November of 1994 when they shot 2 against the Golden State Warriors, very different Golden State Warriors than we know today. And the Cavs won that game too. And guess what? Maybe they're onto something here. Let's shoot less free. But you know what? I mean, part of it, I don't think it was the officiating so much. The Cavs were just on fire from 3-point range tonight against the Pelicans. They were 20 of 45. They made 23s. So they weren't really super aggressive down low. And they were taking a lot of threes and they were making a lot of threes. So that, that's going to curtail your free throw percentage because most of your shots are perimeter shots and you're not getting fouled on those like you do when you go to the basket. But they shot 3 free throws and 1 going away. They won easily. They turned the game into basically 48 minutes of garbage time.
Yeah, I mean, the Cavs were just on fire from beyond the arc tonight. I mean, they shot 44% from 3. For the most part. I mean, 44. They're at one point we're at 47. Merrill hit 5. George Niang hit 4. Garland hit 6. Mitchell hit 4. I mean, they were feeling it. So you can't really blame it on officials. I will say this though. I don't know why, and I'm not saying this because we follow the Cavs and love the Cavs, but JB Bickerstaff has a bone to pick with the officiating because there's been a lot of horrible games that the Cavs had a horrible group of officials. And they have not getting the calls, and they're missing blatant calls. And JB, I don't know how he's not getting teed up enough with him complaining about it because he has every right to, and he's right. And the Cavs know it. Front office knows it. I mean, their PR staff knows it. They've talked to me about it. I mean, it's been so bad this season. The officiating in the NBA is the worst in all professional major sports, all 4 sports. Always has been, and it's gotten worse this year. Not just the Cavs. You watch any other game, you see it.
Boy, that's a bold statement when you consider the NFL They've got some pretty bad officiating there.
Yeah, I
So,
mean it's gotten worse too. NFL's gotten worse. I think they're right behind them. They're getting there.
yeah, the NBA does probably. I will say this. I think that the NBA officials call a good game. I think that they generally are kind of following the league's instructions. And I'm not talking about who needs to win or lose or any of that conspiracy business. I'm talking
Right.
more along the lines of these are the rules, enforce them.
Mhm.
There's that whole freedom of movement rule. The NBA has really put a focus on scoring outbursts. They love it because they think the kids dig it. And you know what? A lot of the kids do.
I mean, yeah, they do.
And they do. I mean, I talk, my kids my older boys, yeah, they like all the 3-point shooting and the high scoring, but it's not enough to make them tune in all the time. So that said, the NBA is supposedly the competition committee is going to be going over this summer, how to institute some new defensive rules to kind of curtail the scoring because it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. So, that said, I do think when you compare everybody when it comes to officiating, it does seem, and I know we watch the Cavs a lot, so we were only telling one side of the story, but it does seem. I wish the Cavs would get the same amount of calls as the Lakers.
That's
The
my
Lakers
point.
get all kinds of calls, right?
At least
And
you can get some consistency there, you know?
yes, right.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is it does seem like they get the shaft a lot. And like I said, JB has a bone to pick, and good for him. He picks a lot of them during the course of a game.
I mean,
because
I would love to talk to a referee, a retired referee, or an umpire. Like to tell me that these big teams don't get favorite calls is a bunch of BS. Jordan got the calls that LeBron never got the calls, right? The Knicks and the Celtics got favorable calls back in the day. The Yankees got favorable calls in the
right.
World Series. The Braves got the favorable calls in the 95 World Series. Just look at that strike zone would kill the Indians in that World Series, albeit they faced probably the best starting rotation in the history of baseball in the Braves. It's just funny to me. One more thing about this free throw thing. That is so random and specific. And you talk about that 94. The Cavs are one or two. They're the only team in those 8 that have done that have won a game while attempting 3 or less free throws.
Wait, don't tell me the other one. I bet I can guess it. I didn't look it up.
Well, I've got the list here, but
was it the Atlanta Hawks?
The Hawks are on that list.
Okay.
Cavs are on it twice now. Hawks, Grizzlies, Suns, Warriors, Lakers, Bucks. Lakers are the first team to do it in 1980. The last team to do it before the Cavs tonight, the Atlanta Hawks did it in 2018, and the Grizzlies did it in 2014 by attempting 1 free throw, Sam, and the Cavs attempted 3 tonight.
Okay, so there's 3 smaller or mid. Those are 3 teams without like huge. They're not traditional powers. So I think that we're onto something when we say that,
Well, I'll say this. The Warriors, I didn't scroll over enough. They did it in 2016, in January of 16, the year they went that historic season.
And lost.
And they attempted 2, and they beat the Sixers 108-105 that game.
Probably because they were shooting on a 3s.
3, yeah. Well, you're right. They attempted 33s that game.
Probably, yeah.
We can go on and on. But by the way, that 94 team, the Cavs team that did that, I just looked it up. You know who the leading scorer was on the Cavs? The team that beat the Warriors 101-87 that game.
Terrell Brandon.
That would be incorrect. Terrell Brandon only played in 17 minutes and scored 2 points. The actual retail price is Mark Price, 31 points.
The 94-95 season. Wow.
No, it was 90. Yes, it was 94-95. It happened in
November, right?
November, yeah. It was the first year of then Gund Arena.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was the only season Mark Price ever played in the Gund Arena as a member of the Cavaliers.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, let me ask you this. Who was the leading scorer for the Warriors?
Well, I've got it in front of me. I would have guessed wrong if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Tim Hardaway, but it wasn't him.
Well, pretty well.
Latrell Sprewell and Tim Hardaway had 11 points, both. But you would
Chris
have
Webber.
never. Chris Webber was, if he was on that team, he wasn't on the roster
Okay.
here.
He may not have been.
It's a former Cavalier that played like 10 years later with the Cavs.
10 years after this game.
Boy, we're going off topic here. Our listeners are probably thinking, what the hell are you guys
Real
talking
quick.
about?
Just tell me who it is.
Chris Gatling.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I would never guess that about you.
13 points. He played for the Cavs like 6 years later. Okay, we're getting quickly running out of time, but I got to get to my this day in Cavs thing history real quick. So I teased this earlier in the show. I teased it before the break. The Cavs, March 10th is a very important date in Cavs history. I think it's important. It's kind of a fun little fact. Just this past March 10th, on Sunday, the Cavaliers inducted 4 new players in their Wall of Honor. It's their 4th year of doing it, or their 5th year of doing the Wall of Honor. They inducted Terrell Brandon, Jim Jones, the late Mike Mitchell, and then a statistician. Do you know the statistician?
I do not.
I need to meet him. I've never met him before because his name's Chuck Brodsky. He has been the Cavs official statistician since the team came in existence in 1970.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yep.
He was also all well-deserved honor. All 4 guys. The late Mike Mitchell passed away. His son was the one that inducted him or was there, took it on behalf. Cool little thing that the Cavs do there. If you go to the field house, you go to the atrium there. It's right there on the wall. Pretty neat thing. Just coincided that they did this on March 10th, but 3 important things happened on March 10th in Cavaliers history. 1, it's a birthday of Austin Carr and JB Bickerstaff.
Wow. Okay.
And this on March 10th is also the day the late, great Joe Tate passed away.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
3 years ago, he passed away.
Yeah.
He passed away on Austin Carr's birthday.
Yeah. And there's a great story with Joe and Austin. When Austin was a rookie, how the players go on, they still do this. They go on the radio after the game. They pick a player out, go on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And when Austin Carr, believe it or not, went on the radio for his post-game interviews, Joe Tate said, first couple times, I couldn't get him to talk. Austin Carr, of all people, he couldn't get him to talk. And Joe Tate said, I finally told him, look, if you're going to do this, you need to talk and you need to, have a conversation. And Joe's great line was, he did it and he hasn't shut up since.
That's outstanding. And it's funny you say that, Sam, because I'm like, where are you going with this? I remember hearing Joe Tate say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great.
And that's, we all love AC. What a great guy. But
great guy.
It's hard to envision him, not because he's so full of life now and there's never any shortage of conversation with AC. So, but there was a time, fans should know there was a time where he was awkwardly quiet.
Yes, that's outstanding. Wow. Austin Carr, great guy. Mr. Cavalier. Actually, I have had him on my podcast with my brother, Sabol Brothers on the Baseline before, and he is just fantastic. And great guy. Sam, what'd you think? Did I build that up too much, the March 10th?
No, those are 3 very critical moments for Cavs fans. I mean, the late, great Joe Tate passing away on that day, and then AC and JB's birthday. And then, of course, the Ring of Honor. Is that what it's called? The Ring of Honor?
Wall of Honor.
Wall of Honor. Yeah, those are cool. And you know what? I was so happy to see, obviously, Terrell Brandon, but very happy to see them put Mike Mitchell on there because for a couple years there were a really couple of dark years there in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And Mike Mitchell was the one guy you would show up to see him play. Was just really kind of a guy who's been forgotten. Had a great career after that too. He went to the Spurs and had a great career there, but really was for a couple of years. He was the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a lot of people don't remember that or know that. But what a great player he was.
He was before my time, but I've heard you talk a lot about him.
I was real little, I'll say that, but I remember, he was the one guy as a little kid. That was the one guy I remember from those teams.
Wow. Yeah, it's cool that the Cavs do that, and they honor those that have come and have been a big part of the organization, big part of the community. A long overdue thing that I think probably should have done years ago. Teams are now starting to do this. I like this. But the Cavs started this in the 50th season a couple years ago. So they want to keep this growing, and they want to keep it, growing. And it was a lot of people were at that event. And if you ever get a chance next year when they do it, buy a ticket and go there, because it is very cool to see how the family's there and the speeches, and Kobe Altman even talks about it, how this is a weekend that the organization now looks forward to. So now that the place was, renovated, and they've got a perfect spot for it right there in the atrium, you can't miss it when you walk in.
Anytime there's any kind of NBA history stuff, especially Cavs history, it's just, and they're bringing out and recognizing these legends. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, Browns do their Ring of Honor. They had some of their numbers retired. The Guardians do. They have select numbers retired. They're pretty selective on how they retire their numbers, but they have their entire baseball history, basically, of their team Hall of Fame, the Indians/Guardians Hall of Fame, beyond center field at Heritage Park, which is really cool. So now the Cavs now have theirs in the Wall of Honor in year 5. So congratulations to those 4 players and their families. And Sam, I think I'll wrap this edition of Cavs on the Break up with that, and also a look ahead here. We got Houston, Indiana, Miami the next 3 days. We'll see what the Cavaliers can do.
Well, I was concerned that they were going to lose to New Orleans, even with Mitchell coming back, which would have been understandable because New Orleans is a very good team playing at home. So, just try to build off that. And it's hard. They've been hard to predict lately, the Cavs, but in a good way. They never stay down for too long. And I think that's just something. The win in New Orleans is something they can build on. It's a confidence builder. And, you've got a tough slate coming up here. So if they can steal another one somewhere, somehow, that'll be nice for them.
Cavaliers are 42-24 as we now hit under 16 games left in the regular season. If you haven't already, follow the pod at Cavs on the Break on Twitter. Follow Sam at Amico Hoops on Twitter as well. Yours truly, John_Sabol. Like and subscribe to the pod wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a rating. Give us a comment. Really helps the algorithm out. Follow Sam and read his works there at hoopswire.com. That'll do it here on this edition of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.